Rule is in effect. I'm Steve Kim, and I'm joined by our Mexican destroyer, Mario Lopez.
Hey, I'll take it all day. I can't wait to get into that. And, of course, our Manny Robles, Justin Buffalo Knuckles.
Yeah, and let's talk about Andy Ruiz. He shook up the world. He's a bad man. He is the new IBF, WBA, and WBO heavyweight champion of the world, upsetting the apple cart. London Bridge came falling down, stopping Anthony Joshua in 7.
Let me paint a picture for you, okay?
Uh-oh, here we go.
Friday night, I went out to dinner. I had a whole bottle of wine. I had to get up early. That was foolish. Had to get up early the next day. Had to work, right? So I was up early, worked all day. And then afterwards, I had to go to a concert with my kids, Kids Bop.
Because you're a great father. Great father.
Which is basically like a band doing all these covers, right? And like thousands of screaming kids. And I was exhausted, bro. But, you know, we went with the kids. We had a good time, whatever. I was so tired. I wanted to crash out right away because I had to get up early again the next day to work on the Sunday. I purposely didn't look on social media, and I said, you know what? I better watch the fight tonight because my plan was I was going to watch it in the morning while I'm on the elliptical or something. It's a great thing about the DAZN. I said, I better watch it tonight because if just something, I don't know, special happened, I just don't want to wake up and somehow I slip and somebody calls me or whatever. So I was tired, and I said, I'm going to check it out. Go to my family room and put on the fight. Dude, when that third round happened, I jumped up, and all of a sudden it was like when someone's about to die and they shoot you with that adrenaline. I got so much energy, and then after the fight and when everything happened, I don't know if it was a mixture of because I was tired or what happened.
You're energized.
I was so energized to the point where I couldn't go to sleep, and then I wanted to talk about it, and it's all late at this point, and I didn't want to call you because I wanted to save it for the show. But I'm like, am I witnessing what I never thought I would see the day where there would be a Mexican heavyweight champion.
And like our shirts say, órale.
Órale, dude. And what I love about it is that it wasn't like a one-shot knockout deal like when Rockman
beat South Africa,
where it was literally a one-shot. And I never use the term lucky punch because I don't believe it's lucky punch. It was just a one-shot. He got a good shot, whatever it was. Yo, he rolled through Madison Square Garden, did not stick to the script, late replacement, came in and gave zeros and got down, dude. Beat him physically, psychologically, took his soul, made him quit. Beat this Adonis. He's a black Adonis. My man looks like he was sculpted and built in a lab. And so there's no debate. It was a full-on beatdown, and I was just so proud and happy. And the way homeboy looks, I was like, damn. Gabriel Iglesias is heavyweight champion of the world. Fluppy, Russell from Up just won the heavyweight champion. I could not believe, but I was so happy. And the way he did it, not just because he did it, but in the manner in which he did it. And I had some friends that were at the Garden that night, and he said, Mario, the electricity and the energy in that arena was something like I never experienced. And they saw all the British fans who were hardcore, as we know, just change, and they gave him so much love, just like Rocky.
Like
just
Benedict
like
Arnold.
Exactly. Oh, come on. But it was just like the movie, and they came and they were chanting for him. It was like, how could you not love that guy? And I was like, I could not believe. I'm talking about the event itself in the moment and kind of what it meant, especially for a lot of Latinos, right?
Third round of the year, and one of the great moments in heavyweight history. And even in the first 2 rounds, though, people will talk about the left hook beyond the ear that Joshua never seemed to recover from. But, Mario, based on what you saw, the fact that Joshua was so much taller than Ruiz, in my view, tactically was actually a disadvantage. You could tell in the first 6 minutes, he had issues touching him with that jab. And the one thing Manny Robles, who we'll hear from later, kept talking about, we need to get underneath the jab. I thought Joshua even mentally said, this is going to be harder than I thought. Then the third round, when he knocked him down, I guarantee you if he had it to do over again, he'd stay right back on the outside. Because when you get inside that phone booth, and we talked about it last week, with Andy Ruiz in the trenches, I'm telling you, he will beat up most heavyweights.
Now, to talk about the strategy, I was very impressed that Ruiz came out and was the aggressor from the get. From the opening round. He had some head movement that you told me you saw him working on. He was a very smart aggression.
Center of the ring, controlling it.
Exactly. And it looked like Joshua, who always looks in impeccable shape. So these people that are saying that he might have overtrained or didn't take him serious. The dude looks like he's never skipped a workout in his life. So he's always prepared. I don't want to hear anymore too that maybe the moment was too big. The dude's fought in stadiums,
80,000 people,
exactly,
90,000
multiple times. Won an Olympic gold. I mean, the guy knows about big moments. He doesn't have to. MSG looks like a little side arena compared to that.
Bandbox.
Yeah, exactly. So don't give me that. I think he had problems with the pressure, the head movement, him being able to work his way outside, and he wasn't able to really establish his jab and be consistent with it. In the in the second round, when Joshua was able to, he was kind of faking that jab, and he turned it over for a little left hook. He caught him with a good left hook in the second round, and I said to myself, ooh, he took it well, Ruiz, but I said he's not going to be able to take too many of those. Yeah. That's going to be bad. So I think Joshua found something. Sure enough, in the third round, caught him with a nice left hook, a hard left hook, dropped Ruiz. And then he followed up with a big-ass right hand. Remember, because Joshua was a great finisher. After that big hook, and he came up, and he followed up, boom, with that big right hand, and Ruiz took that well. But of course, he thought the end was near, and he might be able to close him out. Well, when he started to train with him in that phone booth, and Ruiz was able to slip that right hand and come back with that big left hook right on the temple. Woo! And those legs started to buckle, and then followed up with that right hand and started letting them hands go. Wow. Ruiz showed me so much. Where most men would have either gotten knocked out by that left hook, for sure that right hand, or would have retreated and maybe played it safe to try to survive. Right. Not Ruiz. He showed so much character, so much poise, and the way he was able to still stick to his game plan, not be intimidated, and counter. That was the whole thing of the fight. The way he was able to counter and be so fast with his hands kept Joshua thinking all night and couldn't allow him to pull the trigger. And he couldn't handle the pressure, and eventually he just succumbed to it all.
What do they say? The punches that hurt you are the ones you don't see. And like Andy Ruiz has the ability to snap off combinations with fluidity, quickness, a little bit enough power. He's 268 pounds. There's something behind that. And he's very quick, and he's also very efficient. Now, going to Anthony Joshua, I want to know, look, guys like Lennox Lewis have come back from losses. This is going to be very interesting to see what happens. Is he Lennox Lewis that can bounce back from adversity, or did he get exposed as Frank Bruno? Now, I want to defend the trainer a little bit, Robert McCracken. In my view, Joshua got concussed and it was never the same. It could have been Emmanuel Stewart, could have been Ray Arcel or Freddie Roach. It wouldn't have mattered. But now all these people want to fire the trainer. Here's my question. Were you saying that in the third round after he got knocked down that, hey, he needs a new trainer? I think it's too easy to scapegoat the trainer in a situation like this. But one thing I did point out on social media last night, Anthony Joshua did not have a long amateur career. In fact, Andy Ruiz had a much more extensive one, short of the Olympic glory. Anthony Joshua, for the last 2-3 years, from his 17th fight on, became a twice-a-year fighter, which means he's not in camp a lot, and some developmental rounds were lost. That's the thing that I question was, did the business become too big before you could really let a fighter blossom fully?
I don't agree. You don't win an Olympic gold medal without being able to know how to box. I'm sorry, but you just don't. And you don't become a heavyweight champion with everyone ducking you by just chance and luck and athleticism. Dude, Deontay Wilder avoided homie for like 2 years. And then Miller thinks he needs to take steroids to be able to stand in there and trade with him. Ortiz outpriced himself because nobody wanted that smoke. Freaking Chubby Vato over here said, screw that, I'm rolling through, and I'm going to take my shots with homeboy. And I'm going to let them hands go. He didn't go in there for a payday. And just so I don't buy into any of that. He wasn't overwhelmed by the moment because he's been there before. He's had an Olympic gold medalist and the most avoided heavyweight on the scene. The guy... And he's in the prime of his life as far as he knocked out or ended up in a very impressive victory over Klitschko. So it's not, I don't want to buy any of that. I think it was a combo of, it was a style that he wasn't used to and didn't know how to adjust, and standing in the trenches and the counterpunch. His decision to fire back, Andy Ruiz's decision to fire back after being rocked, was pivotal in creating all those knockdowns.
It's the ability to do so.
That's
a lot of guys theoretically will say, I'll fight back, but they don't have the ability to actually be reflexive.
No, that's right. And it's not a swimsuit contest. Even though homie looks like the Black Adonis, it's about quickness, hand speed, technique, and
that's another question.
AJ didn't know how to handle the situation.
Do you think
AJ didn't know how to
AJ's too
situation. No, bro, I don't buy that either.
I do.
I don't. No, I know.
do.
You know, I don't buy that either. You're buying into this conspiracy. Klitschko, that fool looked like he was.
No,
Klitschko was
he
jacked.
never looked that big.
Klitschko was jacked, bro.
Not that
he
big,
was
though.
just snack. Just because he's black, you think he looks a little more ripped.
No,
but Klitschko,
I don't.
Klitschko,
I mean,
yeah,
Mario,
dude,
I know you don't want to take any credit
listen,
away.
Listen,
but wait a minute.
hold on. No, but to answer that question, I don't believe Holyfield was jacked. Klitschko was jacked. Ken Norton, even back in the day, was jacked. So I don't believe in any of that. The muscles. Look, if he came in looking like Lee Haney, you know, that's an old school, right? I went with you with the Lee Haney.
I'd go with
you
the
know,
Flex Wheeler. Yeah,
you know what I'm talking about? Lee Haney.
Dorian Yates was another good one.
But yeah, exactly. Yeah, so all those fighters were very put together. So I don't necessarily buy into that. It was just, look, and I like Anthony Joshua. I think he's a gentleman in the way he handled it. He's all class. The guy's pure class. But I am interested to see if he wants that rematch immediately. Because it wasn't, like I said, a Rockman Lewis situation. It was, he got his ass beat.
Well,
there might be a little PTSD there.
That's what I wonder. That looked like a soul-crushing loss.
Right.
The kind that sticks with you in the back of your mind. Now, I'm being told that the rematch will happen in the UK sometime in November.
Is that guaranteed? I know Hearn.
It's contractual. Now, again, you could breach a contract and get sued. But if you're Andy Ruiz and you probably got, let's say, 3 to 5 for the first fight, and in the rematch you're going to make 2 to 3 times more. And look, the news on Friday was that Wilder is going to fight Fury in a rematch.
Mm-hmm.
So when you're Andy Ruiz, if you're going to give me 3 times more money to fight the exact same guy I just knocked out, and Wilder is not available, I'm not breaching that agreement.
Oh, you made $5 million. Now you're about to make 15 or more. It goes a long way in the Imperial Valley.
Yeah.
Listen, here's the thing. As special as that was, you don't want to see Ruiz. It's been compared a lot to Buster Douglas, Mike Tyson, which, by the way, let me just break away for a second. The thing about Buster Douglas, Mike Tyson, Buster Douglas was a big fool. Buster Douglas was a big dude who was a lot bigger than Tyson. Yes, Tyson had that aura of invincibility, but he was a big dude that could box. The fact that this fool, the pictures are the disparity is so crazy. He looks like a torta, and then homeboy clears him by like 2 heads.
David versus Gordo? I went there.
You know what? But you know what I mean? Physically, it wasn't like Buster Douglas was a big ass dude, and it just looked much different. So the optics of it looked like it was that much more dramatic. Where I don't want to see happen is after Douglas in that fight, homie started hitting up. He went to the taco stand and he just ballooned up and cashed in with the fight with Holyfield. I really hope that's not the case with Ruiz. And he takes too long of a victory lap and maybe gets a little too lax. I hope he stays hungry. That fool always looks like he's hungry.
And by the way,
but I hope he stays. stays.
You know what's
you understand what I'm saying?
Yeah, you know what's interesting is that he weighed 268 for this fight.
Dude, that's big, dude.
It's the most he weighed for a fight since 2014, which surprised me.
I know.
And if he is going to take a victory lap, he has an open invite to the 3 knockdown rule, of course, and make that.
We got to. That's the mission. We're going to talk about that later.
If there is a rematch, in my view, no matter who Anthony Joshua has in his corner, no matter what he does, I think he has to fight a very, very safe, tactical fight.
Boring, you mean?
In other words, he has to stink it out. I really believe he has to go into the Vladimir Klitschko, Emmanuel Stewart portion of his career.
Right.
Because it's been, look, forget the fact he got buzzed and knocked down 4 times on Saturday. Dillian White buzzed him. Klitschko knocked him down. Alexander Povetkin knocked him down. There's a pattern here. So it wasn't a complete surprise.
It's a heavyweight division, too. Those are big-ass dudes throwing bombs at you. But let me ask you this. Let's assume they have the rematch, and let's even assume for a second Joshua wins. Is there a trilogy automatically?
Depends on who wins the rematch.
And how it's won?
If Joshua wins the rematch.
Well, no, of course. That's what I said. I said if Joshua wins a rematch.
And it's a really good fight, another dramatic fight, which it may or may not be, I wouldn't mind seeing. We need rivalries. We don't have enough rivalries anymore.
So Ruiz just went from not making millions to possibly a $30 million payday.
Yeah.
Or $40 million, if not more. That is so dope.
It is. And the man in the corner that was the architect for this victory was Manny Robles, who talked about the victory and what it meant to him and how did they upset Anthony Joshua. Manny, congratulations on the big victory. I know it means so much, not just to you, but your family. Let's go back to Saturday night. 3rd round, Andy hits the canvas. It doesn't look like that point. What's going through your mind?
Well, I've been there in the past. You know what I mean? You just got to stay calm and stay collected and, wait for your obviously your boxer's reaction. Once he hit the canvas, he seemed to be okay. He seemed, he pretty much have his mind together. You know what I mean? He wasn't stumbling or anything like that. So, I got a pretty good feeling about him being able to use his experience to hold and whatnot. But anyway, you know what happened.
Right. So he scores 2 knockdowns in the third. Did you feel at that point that Anthony Joshua was never quite the same in that fight?
Absolutely. He was never the same. He showed a little. Well, he was showing respect for Andy in the first couple of rounds, and then after those couple of knockdowns, even more so. So definitely, and then once we changed the fight a little bit in the later rounds, as opposed to going looking for the right hand over the top, I had him go throw that straight right hand on the body because he was able to read that right hand. So those body shots really were really the punches that really slowed him down in the later rounds.
Manny, it seemed to me by the end of the 6th round, Anthony Joshua, as he said, got hit with that one big right hand, or a couple of them, to the body. Did you feel going into the 7th that Anthony Joshua was ready to be taken at that point?
But yeah, there was obviously there's a possibility. You know how boxing is; anything can happen in boxing. All it takes is one punch. I just wanted Andy to stick to the game plan and not get overconfident for the same reason. You know what I mean? I don't want him to go punch crazy. You know what I mean? And just go out there and try to knock the guy out. I wanted him to stay calm and collected and break Joshua down, continue to do what he was obviously doing. But even more so, you know what I mean? To try to apply a little more, because he slowed down, and I guess like the 5th, 6th round, he probably slowed down a little bit. So I had him, try to apply more pressure, and then put his foot on the pedal a little more. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm. So you get the victory, and I know that you've been through a lot as a trainer. You've been through the ups and downs. You saw another one of your heavyweights that you worked for a long time, Dominic Brazil, going to the biggest fight, the largest payday of his career without you. Now this happens.
Yes,
as you reflect on all that, what do you say about all that?
What can I say, man? I mean, I don't want to, say anything negative about no one. You know what I'm saying? It's not in my nature. It's not in my character to put anyone down or say anything negative about anyone. I just worry about me, and I'm extremely happy for me, obviously for the team, for Andy, and just, celebrating the big victory. That's all I'm concerned about. The last person I think about is people like, for example, Dominic in this situation. Like, he's the last person I would ever think about in a situation such as this one.
So going back to Saturday night, you're in the ring, you're hugging Andy, and we've seen the pictures. Yes. Does anything beat that?
Nothing. I don't think anything said, because it's the heavyweight championship of the world. Because we're fighting one of the best pound for pound, one of the best fighters in the world, and not the top heavyweight. And last but not least, to be able for Andy to become the first heavyweight champion of the world from Mexico or Mexican descent. I mean, it's incredible. We made history.
Mario, you know what I love and really respect about Manny Robles? Because I did that interview, and you can see his voice is very scratchy. I'm sure they broke curfew on Saturday night. When I spoke to him, it was about 6:30 Eastern time. He was in one of the airports in New York. Said, I'm waiting for my flight home. And I said to him, oh, yeah, when are you getting back to the gym? He said, tomorrow, which is Monday. So as we speak right now,
that's awesome. That
guy is working with his other boxers, and he said to me, Steve, all my fighters are important to me.
It's awesome.
That is dedication.
Well, Freddie Roach's the same way.
Yeah.
He's always back there the next day. It's awesome to see a guy like that rewarded after so many years. So
Anthony Joshua, I don't know where he goes from here, but I think it's fascinating. And for Andy Ruiz, he is the story in all of sports in 2019, at least for this week. A couple things on the undercard. Callum Smith hammers Hassan Endam in 3. Katie Taylor got an absolute guest against Delphine Pierson. She's a cop where she lives. She should have arrested somebody for that decision. I thought Katie Taylor was very, very fortunate to get her hands raised in victory. And Josh Kelly, I thought, got exposed a little bit in being held to a draw against not that Ray Robinson. We go back to the Garden this Saturday night on the DAZN. Former middleweight champion of the world, Gennady Golovkin, with a record of 38-1 and 134 knockouts, takes on Steve California Rolls of Canada. Comes in with a record of 19-0. Mario, with this new partnership, with Jonathan Banks, who you'll hear from in a few minutes, what would you like to see with this 37-year-old Golovkin going into the final chapters of his career?
Combination punching. I'd like to see some more combos and a little more work to the body. He seemed to be 1, 1, 2.
Methodical.
And methodical, a little too methodical. And I know Canelo, who's a great combo puncher, probably just didn't want to get into too many exchanges, but I think that's what made him great initially. So I'd like to see him get back to there a little.
Yeah, under the guidance of Jonathan Banks and Big Bear, they have been working on new things. Back on May 14th, I made the trek up to Big Bear. This is what Mr. Banks had to say about working with Triple G. Jonathan, do you feel as though you're going to be the most scrutinized trainer all the way till June 8th?
I don't even pay attention to it. I can't even answer that because, I do the same thing I've been doing from day one. I keep my head down and I work.
So much is known about Gennady Golovkin because there's so much out there. So there's a prodigious track record of really good work. What has surprised you about him, being inside the gym, learning about him as a fighter from the inside? What's one or two things that's opened your eyes?
His attitude about his attitude and his hunger, because he have an attitude of a guy having his pro debut, and he have a hunger of a guy who really, really want to turn pro and be a world champion.
Mm-hmm. That's the thing that I think myself, everyone else is wondering. Are you just the guy that took the gig because it's good money, or did he choose you because they're like, you know what, I'm going to learn from you?
Well, that's something that remains to be seen. But one part question I can answer. Did he choose? What was the first question? Did I just take the gig?
Did you just take the gig because, hey, it's great, it's a nice payday? Or did you feel as though, hey, this is an unbelievable challenge?
Well, I learned a long time ago from the late great Emmanuel Stewart, never train a fighter you don't believe they can win. Because if you don't believe this fighter can do anything, then you're wasting your time. And I don't like wasting my time. So therefore, I took the challenge because I believe I can be a difference with him, and I believe he still can win.
His attitude, you say it's great, he wants to learn. So as you guys are doing more mitts, because I know you guys are working on different combinations, was it an adjustment for him?
I think everything is adjustment for him. I think if you go how far deep in sports you can go to any high-tier athlete, always the ones who stood out, whoever was willing to make the most adjustments was always considered a top-tier athlete or a great athlete, if you will. And I think his ability and his skill set, his mindset, and his willingness to make adjustments is the reason he's at the place he's at today.
The way he's been so compliant with some of the things that you have suggested or ordered, has that surprised you?
Sometimes a little bit.
Yeah, really.
Sometimes, but overall, once you see that someone you're working with have your respect for you, then it don't come to a surprise as much.
Has anything on his end, from a physical standpoint, whether it's the energy, whether it's speed or quickness, what surprised you about him?
What surprised me about him? His attitude. When I met him, his attitude was like, you could see, it was like a kid in the candy store. You see in his face that he wanted to get in the gym. Right. He couldn't wait to go to the gym. He couldn't wait to work out. It was like he's going for his first workout. His excitement and his energy was the biggest surprise for me.
It's interesting. When you started getting rumblings, or when that first call came that, Jonathan, you might be in the mix here, what went through your mind?
So, we'll see.
Really? You played it off that cool?
That's it. I'm like, for me, what you see is what you get. I'm cool. I'm calm and collective all the time. So that's just how I take everything.
So as things got further along, what happened? Did they call you again? Were you brought into a meeting? How'd that take place, the process?
Yeah, all of the above. I was called and I said, okay, let me know. And I was called back within the next hour or so. And I'm like, how soon can you get here? I said, well.
Where were you when you got the call?
I was home in Detroit.
In Detroit. And did they say fly at the Big Bear? Something like that?
Right. They said they wanted me to come out to, no, not the Big Bear. They wanted me to come to Hugh. They wanted me to come to California.
Okay.
In L.A. So I came out to L.A. I said, well, give me a day. Let me close up my business. Let me close up the gym. and I'll be out there.
Now, did you guys actually work out in LA, have a trial session in essence, or you just met?
We had a conversation. We met before, so he knew me.
Yeah.
So we had a conversation. We sat and talked for maybe an hour or two, and he stood up, shook my hand, said he wanted me to be his coach.
Really? Now, did you guys talk philosophy, strategy, or anything else of that nature?
We talked everything, not getting into particulars, but we talked about everything. And he made a decision. He said, okay. He felt his first thought was correct. And he said, okay.
So that first time that you caught him on the mitts, what's going through your mind?
Same thing goes in my mind dealing with any fighter, man. I want to make sure I'm doing what's best for the fighter.
Right.
I want to make sure I'm pulling out the talent that I see.
Right.
And that's to me, that's most important. I see, because I seen them working out as I was here before we did mitts, and I wanted to pull out what I saw.
There's an old thing or a belief that for a new trainer and a veteran fighter, it takes 2-3 fights or 2-3 camps to really start to see a change. Number one, do you believe that? And how fast do you think we could start seeing some of the Jonathan Banks touch in Gennady Golovkin?
Well, I think you could start seeing. I really believe you can see it right away. It all depends on your presentation. Even if you got a new chef, and if they fix your plate, your old chef fix your plate a certain way.
Right.
And if the new chef sees this,
right,
but he sees you in a different way, because you may feel different about the old chef than the new chef.
Right.
If the new chef still presented his way, but yet he is presentable to your likings, then you adapt to it.
So in other words, 3 different great chefs could make pot roast. They could all be 3 different versions of pot roast.
They all would be presented differently.
Right.
And depending on which one have learned you the fastest, depending on which ones have it to more of your liking.
Jonathan, I pose this. This is my personal opinion. You've been with Hall of Fame fighters, Vladimir Klitschko, Cecilia Breakhouse. But I think this could be a career-defining job. That this is the type, if you have the success you want, you'll write your check for the next 15, 20 years. People will be running to your gym. Whether that's fair or not, I don't know. But do you feel that is off base?
I don't feel you're off base, but I don't look at it like that. I don't look at it. This is the job I have, and I'm gonna put my best foot forward every single time that I'm in the gym.
Right.
And that's the situation for me.
Is it fun being in the gym with him?
I love it. I love being in the gym, period.
Right.
So is it fun? Yes. When you around someone, it's like you as a journalist.
Right.
If every question you ask someone give you one-word answers, that's a horrible interview. You don't want to have to care. You basically carrying everything. You basically interviewing yourself.
I've had those before.
Right. You basically sitting at home talking about, I could do this by myself. You give me one-word answers. Dude, just write me your answers, and it's only going to be one word anyway.
Right.
So if you got someone that's willing to elaborate and talk with you to go as deep as you want to go, then you consider that a great interview. That's the same thing as going to the gym with a guy like Triple G. He loves what he do. He's passionate about it, and he enjoys it. So for me, I love what I do.
Right.
I'm passionate about it, and I enjoy it. So we have a good time.
Final question for me, Jonathan. I know there's a train of thought, and I've seen and heard a lot of people say it. Maybe I've even surmised it. 37 is a lot closer to 40 than 30. But again, different gas tanks, different odometers run differently. When you look at Golovkin, do you say to yourself, we've got a lot of miles still to go here?
Definitely. I see. See, when people vision age, they envision a full stomach.
Right.
So when you hear a young age, you envision an empty stomach.
Right.
So it's not that they wrong about the age, they wrong about the vision.
Right.
He still have an empty stomach.
Right.
And he's very hungry, and he wants to eat middleweights. And he's more than happy to do so, and he's ready and willing to do so. And I think that's what matters more than anything. What matters.
Mario, I've seen some footage. They had an open workout last week when we were filming the show at the Churchill Gym in Santa Monica. I will say this, again, it's just mitts. I mean, during batting practice, everyone looks like Tony Gwynn. But with what I saw, I did see more emphasis on head movement. Looked a little bit lighter on his feet. Looks like Banks has worked on straightening the right hand and also a slip counter, a little bit more head movement. But again, you've got to be able to implement that in a real fight because everyone looks like an all-star in batting practice and shoot-arounds. I'm intrigued because I do think that as good as Abel Sanchez was in developing and bringing along the skills of Golovkin, I do think there comes a point in every relationship, whether it's a marriage or some type of union, sometimes things get stale. That's the sense that I get. I don't think it was just financial. I really don't. That when I'm looking at,
well, oftentimes, as you know, trainers are the first ones to
they're the scapegoats.
To scapegoats when coming off of losses. Unlike a marriage, if things get stale, you can't just throw in the towel all the time.
Especially if you have kids.
Yeah, it's a major monkey wrench. But listen, a change of scenery with a fighter at his age might have been the best. Might have been what the doctor ordered. So.
I talked to Jonathan at length at the 360 show of Tom Loeffler on that Saturday. And I've known Jonathan for years. And I said, Jonathan, be honest. Does Golovkin want to learn? Is he willing to listen? He says, yes. And I said, give me an example of you implementing a change that he may have not wanted. Jonathan says first sparring session, he's putting on the gloves in the corner. All right, they're all gloved up. He's got the headgear, so he's tying the gloves. And Gennady says, okay, coach, we go 4-minute rounds with a half-minute rest. And Jonathan goes,
4-minute rounds?
Yeah, that's like a conditioning thing.
Yeah, yes, I get it.
Some people go 5, believe it. And there's a story to that.
That's UFC style.
Right, so Jonathan goes, oh, really? He goes, no. We're going to go 3-minute rounds with 1-minute rest like a fight. And see, if you keep doing 4 or 5-minute rounds, you know what happens? You develop a slow pace.
Exactly. You get more complacent.
And Jonathan Banks said, Steve, I'll never forget the first camp that Emmanuel Stewart, who was his disciple or his mentor,
right,
was working with Vladimir Klitschko. And Klitschko said, well, we're going to do 5-minute rounds with a half-minute rest.
It's that Eastern European thing.
Right. So, Emmanuel, look, he had been doing that for years with Abel. That's an Abel thing he carried over. So going back, Emmanuel Stewart's like this on the ring. He says, I'll never forget, they're in like Hamburg, Germany. So he's watching this 5-minute round. 5-minute round just going on. The first round ends and nothing was happening. And he says, I'll never forget, Emmanuel blurts out, oh my God, let's go back to 3 minutes. Y'all did nothing for 2 minutes but rest. What is this bullshit? I want to go 3 minutes. And he made it a point. Because at the end of the day, he said, y'all did nothing but rest for 2 minutes. We don't do this in a fight.
One of your better impressions, by the way.
Thank you. If I could use the MF word, it's a good one. Trust me.
You can use it, baby.
No.
Who's getting in trouble?
This is for the kids. This is for the kids. So that's one thing that he did. And I said,
I appreciate
so he's coachable.
Yeah,
and he said he's absolutely coachable.
He's
and
a
I
smart
think
guy. I'm not
that
surprised.
is absolutely key. So I want to see what goes on. Now, you know what's interesting about the situation at Big Bear? Tom Loeffler and I, we drove up there with some other people. I didn't realize that where Golovkin is working with Banks is the old home in the compound of Shane Mosley, who's renting it out.
Good for Shane.
The summit is literally 20 seconds away.
Oh, wow.
If they wanted to scream at each other, Gennady and Abel, or throw eggs at each other, they could do it without a relay guy.
Ooh, Real Housewives of Big
And
Bear.
so on that trip, I was able to speak to Abel Sanchez, and I talked to him about life after Golovkin.
Interesting. I still see the Golovkin thing, all the paintings, the murals, the pictures. Did you ever think about taking it down?
Oh, they're going to come down, but I mean, it's nothing that I'm going to replace them with the guys that are going to be creating history from here on. Mm-hmm. But that'll be time.
You know, Abel, you've had a storied career as a trainer, and you're a big boy. You've been through this situation once before. Does it ever get any easier?
I never thought it would happen again. Really, not easier. Just it's just disheartening. But that's something that unfortunately that happens to a lot of coaches in our business, and it shouldn't be happening.
Yeah, you know. So when the day came and the announcement, which shocked everybody, that the union had been broken, the divorce was final. When you woke up the next day and you come into this building right here, the Summit in Big Bear, was it a different feeling?
No, he's not the one that makes the Summit. I make the Summit. I'm the one that's here every morning, and when he's not here, there's other fighters. When he's not here, there's other champions. When he's not here, there's... remember, he only fought once or twice a year.
Right.
And I have 9 fighters. So, no, there's other fighters in my gym. There's other fighters that depend on that same kind of attention. They have dreams and hopes of becoming not only world champions, but household names like he is.
So the job moves on, and that's what you're focused on. that allows you to move on easier.
Absolutely. I'm not doing this because of one fighter. I'm doing this because now, anyway, back when he started, he was the focus because he was the bigger name in the gym. Once we started developing other fighters, because none of these fighters that came to me were champions, I made them champions. So once they came to me and they started having a career, my responsibility became even bigger than it was before. Not that I wanted it to be, but it just becomes because you create a situation in a gym where it's an environment. Guys get better, guys become champions. Now they have a career too.
Did this? Listen, you're well off. We don't need to throw a benefit for Abel Sanchez. You live pretty well. Was this loss more painful from a professional standpoint or a personal one?
A personal one because I just thought we had a different kind of relationship. I thought that all my guys have a different kind of relationship with me. Talk to any of my ex-fighters. They will tell you what kind of relationship that I try to make them, how I make them feel, how I want them to feel about themselves.
Yeah, it's interesting. He's not too far from here. In fact, he's very close. Is it a strange feeling knowing that he is training in the city of Big Bear, but not at this particular gym?
No, because when I asked Kovalev to leave, Kovalev came back and trained here too. What is difficult for me is that, as Joe Goosen will say, the intellectual property that he took with him from the 9 years is still being used.
Yeah. So as you look back, they say all good things must come to an end. Obviously, it's not the ending that you wanted. Do you look back at the time that you spent from, I believe, the ending of 2011? Do you look at it as a positive chapter,
Actually, the middle of 2010. Yeah. Of course, it's a positive chapter. The only thing that I regret is maybe making it so much my priority that my family suffered, and my family did without me for those 9 years.
Yeah.
I don't need the money. I can get the money back. I can't get the time back.
Yeah.
I'll be 64 in about 3-4 months, so that's the difficult part.
Abel, I know that there is a fraternity of trainers. Only you guys really know what you go through. And I've always said trainers are the closest guys to fighters. You're in the gym every day. Everyone else really isn't. They visit fighters. You kind of live with them. What has been the outpouring? What is the feedback you've gotten from your fellow trainers as this situation was announced?
It's been amazing, and it's been some of the words that obviously there's a lot of coaches that can't be vocal about my situation, but understand it completely. The most heartwarming, I guess you could say, was from a coach I would have never expected it from, and it just shows you that they understand, but they have to keep their mouth shut. Unfortunately, they have to keep their mouth shut. They shouldn't have to.
Final question. June 8th, as he fights Steve Rolls, first time that you will not be in that corner. You're a mainstay. Will you watch that night?
You know, I didn't watch the Canelo-Jacobs fight. I was having dinner with Kazamichi. I don't know. If I'm not busy that night, maybe I'll watch it, but I'm not a subscriber to DAZN. So if I'm not a subscriber, then I guess I won't, unless somebody's watching it, then I'll watch it. But really, I don't watch many fights other than the ones that my guys are involved in, and guys that we may fight in the future. So I couldn't answer that. I don't know until that day.
Mario, if you were able, what would be your feelings this week?
Well, listen, if he had to go on and he wanted to move and he gave me that deal, fine. But why you got to kick it in my backyard? I'd be, you know what I mean?
You do find that awkward.
Yes, that part I do. I don't have a problem with him moving on, okay, at this point in his career, like I said, because they had a hell of a run. But it's almost rubbing in my face by kicking it in the same, and it is such a quaint little neighborhood. I mean, that's just me.
It's your proverbial one-stop city.
Right?
There's one movie theater. I think there's one breakfast spot.
What's what I'm saying?
There's one movie theater.
I mean, come on.
As they say, there's not a lot there. Also on Saturday on ESPN from Reno, Nevada, the WBO featherweight title of the world is on the line. It's the return of Oscar Valdez against Jason Sanchez. This is what Oscar Valdez had to say about his return to the ring and working under the direction of Eddie Reynoso.
Oscar, let's go back to Super Bowl weekend. You finally got back into action after that broken jaw that you suffered against Scott Quigg last March. How did it feel, and did it take a little time to kind of get your bearings underneath you during that fight?
I mean, it felt good, because of
fall right in the ring. But at the same time, there was points where I felt a little too relaxed in there. I definitely felt I had a little ring rust. You know, it was 11 months since my last fight, so I definitely felt the ring rust. I think that should be over by now. I feel good in the gym right now, and I'm just looking forward for my next fight right now.
You know, you could spar 1,000 rounds, but it's not the same as actually having a real fight. I know you had a long training camp, you worked hard. So when you got in there in that first fight back in early February, and all of a sudden you got the smaller gloves and then no headgear, and you're getting punched by a guy trying to take your head off, how many rounds did it take for you to kind of get used to this and settle into that fight?
Well, I think it took me like a full round. You know, first full round, it got me used to back at it again, because it's like you said, it's way different from sparring sessions to an actual fight. You know, smaller gloves, and obviously my distance wasn't the same. So it definitely took me a whole round for me to get back on it. But even that, I felt good. You know, even though I had an 11-month layoff, I definitely felt good, and it felt good having another knockout on my record.
Mm-hmm. Now, you've had another training camp here with the Reynosos. What has it been like? Have you been able, in your view, to build upon what you built in terms of the foundation from the first training camp?
Yes, I mean, we were conscious that we're not going to learn everything in just one training camp. I think it takes time, and right now, I'm feeling good with that. So we've been working very hard in the gym, which is the way I like to work, and also working on certain things. Obviously, on our defense, our strategy for our next opponent, working on counter punches, and just trying to become a better fighter. And like I said, I feel like it might not only take one camp, maybe not even two camps, but I definitely feel like I'm improving with Eddie.
Being with Eddie, and obviously the signature fighter that they've been associated with the longest is Canelo Alvarez, and we've all seen his development. I know you're a boxing fan regardless, Oscar. Do you watch Canelo Alvarez fights a lot closer now, given the fact maybe that's part of what you want to become in the future?
Well, like I said, I've always been actually a boxing fan. I've seen Canelo fight before, and I've always been an analyzer with not only Canelo but all the fighters. But I still I can see why Canelo has improved. I can see how his head movement and his defense gets better and better, because they work at it. They work at it a lot at the gym. So only thing that can happen is improvement right there. So now it makes sense for me to see how Canelo's development has been.
So, Oscar, is one of the big adjustments for you, because I know you've never been shy about throwing punches. Now, are you starting to make that adjustment or that evolution where you're throwing punches and then now you're moving your head and getting into better defensive position as you reset?
Oh, definitely. I feel like I'm picking better in my shots. Not just going in there being crazy. And I'm just showing that in my next fight, because like I said, maybe I didn't show it that much in my first fight with Eddie, but this time I think I can show a lot more. We're working a lot in the gym on our counter punches and picking our best shots, and not just going in there crazy, trying to just knock out my opponent or try to waste punches in the air.
Mario, you know what I find interesting? This part was not in the interview that we cut down. There's a lot of talk of Valdez facing the likes of Carl Frampton and Josh Warrington, but he said flat out, he goes, Steve, I don't know if I can make 26 much longer. He's been at 26 since his second Olympic run way back in 2012.
Oh, man, that's discipline right there. But that doesn't seem healthy.
Yeah. What I'm looking for in this particular matchup is, we know one thing about Reynoso. He should get a lot of credit for the way he developed Canelo Alvarez with the head movement, a sharp counter-punching, and being accurate. Second camp, and this guy Sanchez is pretty solid, 14-0. I want to see if Valdez can start to pick up more of the nuances of that style, because I don't think it's necessarily what he's natural at, but we will see how good Valdez and Reynoso work together. Also, quick thing, fight review in San Jacinto, PBC on FS1. Ivan Redkach with an upset victory, knocking out Devin Alexander in 6 rounds. What I call a boys to men fight. It's the end of the road for Devin Alexander. Fight preview, or actually some news and notes here. Mario, I'm hearing that Eddie Hearn and Top Rank, that they are working diligently, and we might have a 140-pound unification bout between Maurice Hooker and Jose Ramirez.
Ooh, that's what getting
Good
me excited
fight.
right there. Yes, that is a good fight. I hope that comes to fruition.
And by the way, last week, I talked about Ryan Garcia and his issues.
Yes.
I got this. This is signed, sealed, and delivered. He's in arbitration with his manager, Roger Ruiz.
Oh.
So what I was told by Golden Boy is, Steve, we want to book him for July 13th at the StubHub Center. But till this is resolved, we can't do anything. And now we're into June.
That can take a minute.
Right? So there's always issues with this guy. And then finally, July 13th on ESPN, from Newark, New Jersey, Brick City, Shakur Stevenson takes on Hiram Sokoras in what should be considered another step-up fight for a very, very bright prospect. Let's go to the Ask Mario segment of the show from Twitter. Let's take a look at what's on the docket. Here's a question from Tomato Cans Only. Is Ruiz's victory good or bad for boxing and getting it back into the mainstream? Do you think the casual fan loses interest in boxing now that the heavyweight champion looks like a PBA bowling champ?
It's cold as ice. First of all, it's awesome for boxing. How could it not be? You've got someone who looks like the everyman rocking a dad bod, who beat someone who looks like a superhero out of a Marvel comic. How can you not root for that guy? Andy happens to be the first Mexican heavyweight. It's a beautiful story.
That thing went viral. Look, if Anthony
Dude,
Joshua...
you had everyone from Stallone to Jamie Foxx
some of these clips have hit 10 million views.
Dude.
Look, if Anthony Joshua won the fight, we would have talked about it for that night, and then we would have moved on.
Of course.
Now, Andy Ruiz is a thing. We got Snickers basically tweeting at him, and I think there should be an endorsement deal down the line.
Oh, I hope it all happens for him. And if he stays focused, stays disciplined, he could really have a pretty lucrative career no matter how long it lasts.
And look, I mentioned this in my ESPN column in the aftermath of the fight. The bottom line is, we all wanted to see Wilder versus Joshua Wilder undefeated. But last time I checked, Lennox Lewis, again, go back to him. When he fought Mike Tyson, a lot had happened in between their careers. We've seen fights. Look, Eric Morales lost to Zahir Rahim before one of the rematches of Manny Pacquiao. It didn't really affect my interest in that particular fight or the action in the ring.
No, but this is a little different because it's the way,
I
think, in which he lost. So it's going to be interesting to see in the rematch. But the only people that should be upset are Deontay Wilder and Anthony Joshua. Well, too bad. That's why you don't let fights marinate.
And the bottom line is they weren't going to fight for another year and a half anyway.
Exactly.
So it's not like it was right around the corner.
Exactly.
Here's one from Dethroned South. Should Alexander Usyk now stay at cruiserweight now that the Golden Goose, meaning Joshua, has lost some of his luster? No. I believe
Alexander Usyk, I think, would be a tough
style
fight with
is the
Ruiz.
wrong. That's the wrong one.
No, he's all wrong for us.
And by the way, Usyk being a WBO champion at cruiserweight, the WBO has a rule. It's actually in their bylaws that if you are a champion at one division, when you move up, you eventually, in due time, become the mandatory. So he's in line. He is absolutely on that radar, and I'm with you. If there's a style, the two guys that I believe are going to give Ruiz the most amount of trouble based on the way they box and move, Tyson Fury, because he has a much higher boxing IQ than Joshua.
Very lateral.
And if Usyk can take a heavyweight punch, which remains to be seen, that's another one. Go Duke. Give me some Duke. Give me some Duke.
He's all wrong for us.
Yeah, there you go.
Wilder, though, could be interesting.
Well,
I know he's a lot twitchier and obviously explosive, but for some reason, if he's able to get into the inside and trade with, that could be interesting.
But the thing about Wilder, you're right, the reflexes and he's a little bit better athlete. That's the one thing about Joshua. He's a little bit ponderous. Look, he's built like a statue. Sometimes he moves like one.
He's not unathletic though.
Yeah,
he can move a little bit. Wouldn't that be? He said he wanted to look like the Mexican Anthony Joshua. He's gonna come. Would he come back all ripped, dialed in?
Wouldn't be the same. Wouldn't be the same.
No, I know.
He's the modern Mexican two-ton Tony Galento, and I think that is part of his appeal. Here's one from Boxeo Boxing. I'd be interested in your opinion, Mario, on why some media folks, Kevin Iole being just one, feel the need to question Ruiz's identification as a Mexican fighter, basically saying, well, he grew up in America. Is he really Mexican? In my view, look.
Of all people, Kevin Iole, and he represented Mexico in the Olympics as well. Listen, and he's a first-generation guy. It's like I am. That's your culture. That's your people. We're splitting hairs here. He's just trying to cause controversy.
Yeah, and I believe Imperial, where he's from,
Imperial Valley.
Yeah, it's kind of close.
That's a border town.
It is a border town.
Like Chula with Mexicali and the Calexico and all those. That's the IV.
Here is Alonso Garcia. Which top prospects are closer to becoming a world champion in the next 12 months? Virgil, Teofimo, Devin, and Ryan. Well, look, we talked about it a little bit last week. Teofimo, should he beat the Japanese fighter July 19th, he'll face the winner of the IBF title fight between Richard Comey and Ray Beltran. So I believe that roadmap is already set for the Teofimo Express. Oh, here's one. No, look, I don't know if you saw it, but Drake took a picture with Anthony Joshua about a month ago.
Yeah.
So Alex Gomez asked us, so is the Drake curse real?
Well, I don't believe in curses, but if I did have a fighter, I wouldn't be letting him take pics with Drake just in case.
Yeah, just in case. Here's one from Paul Donnelly.
Hey, that fool
Stay away from my team.
He is suspect. He is cold as ice as a fan. What does he have tats of Steph Curry?
He does.
And then he's
got a lot of teams.
Come on, dude.
See you in the Bay, Aubrey.
He's got a lot of loyalties. That's right, Aubrey.
Yeah. Paul Donnelly.
Puts out bangers though.
How do I get my hair to look like AC Slater circa 1992?
Get a perm. You're straight.
Here's a question from Luke Murphy. When will David Benavidez be ready for Callum Smith? Bottom line, David Benavidez, he's going to be coming back, I believe, against Anthony Durrell, the WBC champion, in September, according to his father. Then the winner has to fight Avni Yildirim. So the bottom line is, I don't think those two trains are not meeting at the station anytime soon. And finally, from Southpaw 315, I think Andy Ruiz's TKO of Joshua is great for the sport. His underdog story makes him look great and relatable to most. I can't wait to see what endorsements he picks up. Agree or disagree? Look, I think it is one of the major sports stories. I watched a couple of shows in the morning. They all talked about Andy Ruiz.
Yeah, he's a great story as far as in addition to being a great fighter, it was a great story.
Moving on to final flurries. Mario, I thought billions. Wow. I'm very saddened that this season is coming to an end.
I can't believe we only have one more left. And I love the dad, dude. Mr. Rhodes, how great is he?
He's a dog.
So's Jock. So's the Attorney General.
He is evil. Jock is evil,
and then
man.
he's the worst kind of evil because he pretends to be a man of God.
Yeah.
And then he goes, yeah, no, that's great. But I love when Giamatti and Damian Lewis get together. I have enjoyed it much more than Game of Thrones
now,
this year,
look,
I gotta say.
They broke into the safe, that other guy, with his brother. But the guy that walked in saw the picture was a little bit ajar.
Right.
Do you think they set him up? Maybe like knowing that they were going to do that somehow? Do you think that was like
No. I think he just beat him. They were one step ahead of him anyway. They were already catching up. Remember? They found out when he was getting bugged and the whole thing. That old man gets he pulls a lot of wool, huh?
Yeah.
For an old timer right there. He's like hooking up at every show.
By the way, I love the fact that Axe, he's not dealing with any peace treaty. He's at war.
Well, it's funny because I was watching that with my wife and she said, wouldn't he be happy? Why is he upset that remember she was going to lend her the $5 billion for the month? And I said, because his passion for war. It's
always been personal, though, with Taylor.
It oversees his love for her and for doing the right thing to just move on. He's just anybody who betrays him, he becomes that.
Right.
He needs that drive. So it's very interesting.
It is personal, not just business.
Exactly.
A couple of things here. The Dodgers. They're scorching. They're scorching.
Dude, 9.5 games in first place. I read something that in the last 30 years there's only been 5 teams that have been that have won. I've been 10 games ahead in their division at this point.
Yeah, that early.
Dodgers being one of them, and then out of those 5, 3 went on to win the World Series. So hopefully, I know it's real early, but that kid Will Smith, what a great story. Not the Fresh Prince. He's getting jiggy with it, jacking bombs up in there. The bullpen's always going to be suspect.
Yeah.
We'll see, but it's all right. We got that firepower.
Justin, breathing a little easier after Game 2.
Everybody's hurt though.
I'm happy it's 1-1, but this is a real series.
The MASH unit.
Everybody's hurt. Now it's kind of interesting. It's like it's making it even.
You know what? It's time for Kevin Durant to do Willis Reed, shoot it up, tape it up, put some spit and polish on it.
Yeah.
Get your skinny butt out there.
He needs to get out there, dude. He needs to get out there.
I thought the referees were trying to make this a 2-0 series for Toronto. That last 5 minutes, some of those calls, every 50-50 call went against Golden State. And I look, I don't want to be Oliver Stone, but I will be. The only way Toronto could win that was to win the first 2 games. I think the NBA wanted a long series. Somehow, Andre Iguodala is the modern-day big shot Bob Horry.
That was money.
He will not be a Hall of Famer, but he'll be one of those guys that clutch moments, and he's a winner.
Yes.
He's unbelievable. Yeah. Mario, a couple things of a personal nature. Well, I was stunned, and I know there's a man that you developed a personal relationship. A lot of people knew him on Twitter. I've known him for years. Rest in peace to Juan Beasy, one of the most generous individuals that I have ever met.
Super nice, such a cool, great guy, generous, successful guy. He was an avocado distributor, and we were actually kind of talking because I was interested in maybe doing like an avocado documentary because the dude's got to like break off the cartels when he's coming. I mean,
there's
it's
a big
crazy.
story on that.
It's fascinating. It's like the whole story in that world, and he just he invested in this. I don't know if you know this business called Appeal Science, which basically takes fruit and it's sort of like an invisible condom around the fruit. It holds the oxygen and it keeps fruit fresh for like 5 times as long. It's amazing. It could help end world hunger. It's better for his product. It was an amazing thing. But when I heard the news, dude, I got genuinely really sad.
Yeah, a lot of people did.
Really, really sad. A huge fight fan and just a great guy. So yeah, God bless him and his family.
I met him 20 years ago when I was first starting for Max Boxing, and we're at a fight.
When you were 9?
9, yeah, I wish. And he says, "Hey, Steve, I'm Juan. I'm a big fan." And we argued over Barrero Morales because I thought Barrero won the first fight.
So he agrees with me that Morales won.
And then he loved Morales.
So he's a smart guy.
Yeah.
So he was a smart
and
guy.
And back then he was just a guy, just a working stiff. He built an empire.
Yeah.
He really did. If you go on his Instagram page, he was living his best life. But all I could say is my thoughts and prayers, like all of ours, for Juan, a great guy who will be greatly missed. He went to a lot of fights. In fact, I just saw him in Dallas a couple of months ago. And also, one last thing before we get out of here. Lee Samuels, the lead publicist for years at Top Rank, is getting inducted this weekend in Canastota to the International Boxing Hall of Fame. And Mario,
congratulations,
he's the first guy I ever met in boxing with Top Rank at that level. You'll appreciate this. 1996, when Chavez and De La Hoya were fighting for the first time. First thing I ever went to as a media member, I didn't know anything. Julio Cesar Chavez had a public sparring session. They set up a ring at Hollywood Park in the middle of the racetrack. 10,000 people showed up. I was like, wow. And we had business cards made up.
Deontay Wilder can't even get that at a fight. Seriously.
Well, no, and so I introduced myself to Lee Samuels because someone said that guy works for Top Rank. Could not have been a nicer guy.
Yeah,
and he remained such.
He's
a
a
beloved
lifer.
figure.
Congrats.
He's an absolute class act. So congratulations to Lee Samuels. All right, well, that's it for this week's show. And by the way, if you want these new Orale t-shirts.
Orale. First of all, don't say Orale.
Yeah, Orale t-shirts. Boy, yours looks really good. Yours looks really good on you.
Thank you very much.
You wear the schmedium, right?
Yeah. I know you like yours circa Eminem 1999.
A little bit tighter.
That's tight
again,
for you.
Get yours at 3knockdownrule.com. All right, for till next week's show, on behalf of Mario Lopez and Justin Buffalo Knuckles, this is Steve Kim saying adios.